All right. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين أما بعد. The days are getting shorter and the nights are getting longer. It's darker and the leaves are starting to fall. This is the time every year where people go and dress up outside. It's the time that we know of Halloween. And when it's time of Halloween, many people start thinking about ghosts, goblins, elves, scary things in the woods. In fact, they think about all of these things that are out there and you wonder, are they real or are they fake? Are they real or are they pretend? What's happening in the world? And the great thing about being Muslim, the great thing about Islam is that Islam explains everything that's out there in the world, whether it's ghosts, goblins, ghouls, or something overseas. In fact, every part of the world, every person in the world, they believe in something beyond this world. They believe in something that they can't understand. And Islam is the only religion that can actually explain it. Did you know that Islam can not only explain all of these things, but can also explain UFOs, right? UFOs as well. Islam can explain all of this reality that's out there. And how does Islam explain all of it? We know as Muslims that there is another life form that's out there, and these are called the Jinns, right? The Jinns. And Jinns are able to explain any single type of phenomena that you might see in the world around you. They explain everything, whether they're UFOs in the sky, or whether there's something that people will see in the woods, or dragons, or any of these other creatures. Jinns explain all of it at once. So as Muslims, we have to understand what are jinns, what are these creatures that are seeing in the world, and then so why? So we cannot be afraid of these creatures. So we cannot be afraid of what's happening. When you understand the truth and you understand really what's going on, then you're not going to be afraid because you actually know what's happening. Right now, many Muslims and many people don't know what's happening. They don't know what's going on, so they believe in things and they get themselves scared and frightened. But today, we're going to talk about some of these things that are out there, explain what they are. First, we have to learn what are jinns? What are jinns and what those jinns come from? Where does this come from? Well, in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes jinns. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes jinn in Surah Ar-Rahman, he talks about how Allah created humans and how Allah created jinns. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that he created humans from clay that was hardened, and when you should knock on it, it would make an echo with sound. And then he created jinns from fire, or not really from fire, from like the edges of the fire. Remember we turned on the fire here, and you saw the fire had different colors to it, right? It had red and blue and green, all these different colors. The edges of that fire is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created jinns. How did Allah create jinns? Well, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created jinns from fire. There's a specific type of fire that doesn't have any smoke in that fire. So, you know, when we created a fire just recently, it was creating smoke, it was creating heat. But the fire that's used to create jinns doesn't have any smoke or it doesn't have any ash to it. It doesn't burn anything. In today's English, we could say the fire that's created for the jinns is basically energy, right? Energy. Right now, where do we see energy around us? We see in that light back there. We see in these lights here. We see the lights in the wall. All that's energy. We understand that concept, right? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala probably created jinns out of energy. And jinns are beings created out of energy. Because of that, jinns actually are real. And jinns have a specific way of living. And anything you want to understand the world, you can understand by understanding how jinns are. So a few things about jinn that you guys have to understand. Number one, what does a jinn look like? A lot of people ask me, what do jinns look like? Well, actually, that's a pretty silly question if you think about it. Human beings were created from clay. We have a body, something physical. You can touch and feel it, so you know what a person looks like. But a jinn is made out of energy. What does energy look like? What does the energy in these wires look like? What does energy or electricity look like? When lightning strikes, what does the lightning look like? It looks different every time you look at it, right? Jinns don't have a face like we understand it. Jinns don't have a body like we understand it. Rather, jinns are formless. That's why jinns aren't one specific thing. They can change and they can look differently. So what happens if we understand that jinns don't have a body like human beings? What can jinns do? Well, jinns can do a lot of different things. Number one, jinns can change their shape and look like different things in the wild. So when you go to one society and they believe in goblins or ghouls, or they believe in dragons, or they believe in these things, these are only jinns trying to scare the people where they live. That's why every society, the scary thing in the woods, the scary thing out there, looks a little bit different because everywhere people are afraid of different things. So imagine if you're a jinn and you want to scare people. In America, people are scared of things with two horns, right? That's what they call devils and things. But in other areas, they're afraid of dragons. In other areas, they're afraid of elves that live in the woods. In other areas, they're afraid of goblins, green creatures. All of that are jinns because jinns have the ability to change their shape, change how they look, and they can look like things that scare people sometimes. And that's all it is. Another thing you have to understand about jinns is that there are a lot of jinns, right? There are many more jinns than there are people. In fact, you could say that every jinn might have 1,000 children versus how many children people might have. So there's a lot of jinns out there. And jinns live in what's called a parallel universe. So we know that jinns live here on Earth, right? Jinns are all around us all the time because there's energy around us all the time. But they live in a parallel universe, meaning that jinns can see us, but we can't see the jinns. Angels can see us, but we can't see angels, right? And they're living with us, but not in this world, in a parallel world, in a parallel universe. And the reality is jinns live a lot like people. They have jobs, they have families, they've got stuff to do all day. Did you know that jinns eat? Actually, all of us, we know that jinns eat, right? Why do we not eat with our left hand? Because the Prophet ﷺ said that if you eat with the left hand, that's how jinns eat. When you eat, what do you say before you eat? You say Bismillah, right? And if you don't say Bismillah, what happens? The jinns, the shayateen will eat with you as well, right? So you eat with your right hand, you say Bismillah. So that means jinns eat. That means jinns have a life. Jinns have work. Jinns have a society to live in. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes Iblis, the worst of the jinns, the baddest of the jinns, shaitan, right? He says that Iblis and his progeny, meaning his children, are going to misguide humanity. Meaning that Iblis has a family. Even shaitan, Iblis has a family. He's got kids. He's got grandkids. He's got great-grandkids. And they have their own life to live. It's important that we understand that jinns have their own life and they have their own families. Why? Because jinns oftentimes have better things to do than come and freak you out or make you scared. Jinns have more important things to do than come to your house and turn on and off the lights or make scratching noises and things like that, right? Jinns have their own life and their own way of living. So if you think about it, if jinns don't have a body and they can change their shape, then you can understand that jinns can change their shape to sometimes scare people. As Muslims, do we believe in ghosts? Ghosts is when somebody dies, then you might see them come back to life and scare you or haunt a building. Do we believe in that? The answer is no. Because when a person dies, they're gone. They're gone from this world. Rather, when they die, they then go to the barzakh or the grave, and then there's nothing that you can engage with that person. But again, jinns are real. They can change their shape. They can look a little bit like that person. So when somebody dies, and if you see that person's ghost, that's not that person. You're not seeing that person. You're not seeing that person's ghost. Rather, what are you seeing? You're just seeing the jinn pretending to be that person. Pretending to be that person, right? Just like if I took out my cell phone and I recorded a video of all of you, and then after you died, I showed it to your kids or grandkids, would your kids and grandkids get scared? Would they be like, oh my God, that's grandpa. And my phone, would they be like, oh my God, that's grandpa. Oh, he's here in the house, scary. No, because it's like, oh, this is just a jinn pretending to be grandpa or things like that, right? So jinns, what do we know? Jinns, they don't have a body. Jinns, they can eat. Jinns, they have children. Jinns, they have their own life. And there's a lot of jinns out there as well. When also it comes for jinns, jinns also have the ability to talk and speak. But the thing about jinns versus humans is that humans are a lot smarter than the jinns. So all of you here are a lot smarter than jinns are. Whenever jinns speak, jinns use our language. Does anybody know how to speak jinn, the language of the jinns? No, because people, the jinns, learn our language. They speak in our language in our area, but yet they don't necessarily have a full language that they use. In fact, jinns actually have religion. You know, there are some Christian jinns, some Jewish jinns, some Hindu jinns, some Muslim jinn. Did you know there are jinns who are Muslims as well? In fact, during the time of the Prophet ﷺ, the Prophet ﷺ was sent, and he would actually guide jinns and talk to jinns and teach them about their own religion. In fact, inshallah, we're going to Umrah soon, and there's a mosque, a masjid, right next to the Kaaba in the city of Mecca, and it's called the Masjid of the Jinns. And it's built in the same spot where the Prophet ﷺ took an oath from the jinns as well, right? So now what do we know? We know that jinns can talk. We know that jinns don't have a body. We know that jinns can pretend to be these different creatures and things like that. How do you protect yourself from jinns? Can you beat up a jinn? Can you kick a jinn? Can you like throw a jinn in the pool? Can you do anything like that? No, obviously not, because jinns are energy. Can you punch electricity? Can you like go into the house and like get a hammer and start beating down the electricity in the house? Obviously not, because jinns don't have bodies. Since jinns don't have bodies, then you can't physically attack them or hurt them or beat them up like that. So what do you do to keep jinns away from you, especially the bad jinns? Again, most jinns, they don't care about you. Most jinns are living their life. Most jinns are doing their own thing. They don't have time to come to your house and knock on the door and scare you and these type of things. Most jinns are doing their own thing. But some of the bad jinns, the shayateen, they might do that. We'll talk about shayateen in a second. But how do you protect yourself from bad jinns and shayateen? There's a lot of things you can do. The first and most important thing that you can do is you have to live a life that keeps the jinns away from you, or keep the shayateen away from you. How do you do that? Whenever you come home, what are you supposed to say? You're supposed to say Bismillah and Assalamu alaikum, right? When you do that, that scares the jinns away. If you give the adhan, call it, whenever we pray salah and you give the adhan, giving the adhan helps keep jinns away from your house and keeps them away from you. In fact, it says when you give the adhan, some of the shayateen, some of the bad jinns will make bad sounds and try to make this sound as well. So if you give adhan in your house and Surah Al-Ikhlas as well, and reciting these surahs will help with that as also. Now, a few things about jinns is that jinns have the ability to actually impact our world. They can pick stuff and move it. If you look at the story of Sulaiman alayhi salam, who knows who Sulaiman alayhi salam is? He's a prophet, right? And Sulaiman alayhi salam was a prophet who was able to control all of the jinns in the world, and he was able to control animals, birds, and other things. In fact, Sulaiman alayhi salam was the one that built the temple in Jerusalem. So if you look at Masjid al-Aqsa and you look at the Dome of the Rock, the entire area used to be the temple of Sulaiman alayhi salam. He built that whole facility at that time. And Sulaiman alayhi salam, when he built that temple, he had jinns that he controlled. So Sulaiman told one of the jinns that there's this big story that there's another queen in Yemen called Queen Sheba, and she had an amazing throne, a huge throne, a seat that she sat on to control the people. So he asked his people, who can get me that throne? So one of the jinns, I won't tell you the type of jinn because that's a bit beyond this, but one of the jinns said that I can get that throne and bring it here by the time it takes you to sit down and stand up. What does that mean? How fast can the jinns move? The jinns, because their energy, can move literally as fast as the speed of light. So the jinns have the ability to move as fast as the speed of light. Again, Suleiman asked, who can get this throne from Jerusalem to Yemen and bring it here? And the jinn said, I can get it before you sit down and stand up. That means the jinn can travel from there to Yemen in the speed of light and back within 1 second, right? Not only that, but what can this jinn do? This jinn has the ability to turn matter into energy and then bring it back to matter, right? So when this jinn is going to carry this throne, let's say I'm going to carry this chair from here, Texas, to New York City. Do you think people are going to see this chair flying in the sky, going 1,000 miles an hour from here to New York City? No. Rather, the jinn is able to get this chair, get other material, and then turn it into energy. So it's here 1 second, it disappears, and then next second, it reappears somewhere else, right? And that's one of these jinns. The reason it's important to know that is because jinns are physical creatures, meaning that they have the ability to move fast, and they have some strength. So the average jinn is stronger than the average person. But the average jinn is not smarter than the average person. In fact, all of you are going to be smarter than any of the jinns that are out there. And that's what makes us better and what makes us unique and makes us special compared to the jinns that are out there. Now we understand the world of the jinns. Jinns don't have a body. They don't have to eat. They don't have to do a lot of these types of things. They're a little bit faster and stronger than us. Now, when can jinns become a problem? When do jinns become an issue for people? Well, they're not all good jinns, right? There are some jinns that are called shayateen, or some jinns are like the bad jinns that are out there. And shayateen are the bad jinns who also follow Iblis. Who is Iblis? Remember when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created Adam alayhi salam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that He's going to create somebody on this earth that's going to represent Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah then told Adam all the names of everything in the world, right? And then Allah told the angels and everybody to bow down to Adam. Everybody bowed down except for Iblis, Shaitan, right? The Iblis at that time. And what did Iblis say? Why didn't he want to bow down to Adam? He said, I am better than he is. I, Iblis, am better than he is. Why? Because I'm made from fire, energy, and he is made from clay. That means I'm better than he is. Because of that, there's a group of the jinns, a small group of the jinns that are out there who don't like people, who follow Iblis, who are like, oh no, these people, they're so bad. We want to scare them, make them do bad things, right? And those are called shayateen, and they're the bad jinns that sometimes scare us at night or sometimes bother us or things like that, right? So what do these shayateen do? Again, shayateen can look like bad creatures that are out there, but again, if you see something, you can just say, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, or you can recite Surah Al-Ikhlas or Surah Al-Nas or other surahs as well. You can also recite Surah Al-Baqarah or play Surah Al-Baqarah in the house or give the adhan, and that'll scare away a lot of these shayateen that are out there. Once you understand that all of this is happening by the jinns and the jinns have better things to do, our goal is to not be afraid of the jinns. Our goal is to understand, all right, there's jinns out there. Most of them have their own life. They have to work, they have to eat, they have to take care of their family, they have their own life. And then for the rest of the jinns, the bad jinns, if you ever interact with them or have an issue with them, then you can recite your surahs and that'll keep those jinns away from you so that way they don't scare you. So inshallah, that's a short talk that I have right now. And part 2, I'll have the older kids stay and I can talk about a little bit more about the shayateen as well. Do you guys have any questions or any thoughts that you wanted me to clarify before we wrap it up? Yeah, question time. Yeah, Musa.
You forgot about possess, like jinns can possess you.
That's part 2.
That's part 2.
So wait.
Yeah.
Why do jinns get more power? Like, why do jinns get more powers than us? Like,
good question. So why are the jinns a little bit stronger than us? Why are they faster than us? Only Allah knows, but maybe it's because Allah gave them strength and power, but Allah did not give them intellect. See, jinns don't build chairs. Jinns don't know how to build houses. Jinns don't know how to build electricity in the walls. Jinns don't even know how to understand religion. In fact, they don't even understand language except the language that we have. So even though jinns are faster, a little bit stronger, and they're a little bit scary because they can see us but we can't see them, that doesn't mean they're better than us. In fact, humans are better than the jinns because Allah gives intellect and Allah told everything to bow down to us.
Yeah.
And that's why Shaitan always wants to go after people sometimes because he's jealous of people. He's like, why did Allah allow this to happen to them and not to me? I'm better than them. I'm going to show these people what's going on.
Wait.
Welcome back. Inshallah, we're going to continue our conversation. Jinns we know are real. And as Muslims, it's empowering to know that any mythology, anything out there, we can explain it with jinns. In fact, we can even explain UFOs. As I was talking about earlier, a few years ago, the United States government, the Air Force, you can go online to their official website and actually see this by the US government. They have the fastest jets in the world. They're going Mach 1, Mach 5, which means they're going 5 times faster than the speed of light. Zuzu, sit down. They're going 5 times faster than the speed of sound, And while they're flying, they'll see these bright orbs chasing them, going past them, going around them in diagonal shapes, going up and down, and then disappearing. This is over America. This isn't over this ocean or anywhere else. This is over America. It's happening. And in fact, they have hundreds and hundreds of these sightings. We know that even UFOs in America, where are they? They're jinns that are being caught on camera. In fact, in many cities in America, there have been, if you look at old newspapers, they're described in the news, then in the middle of the night, the sky will light up with dozens of these lights just randomly flying in the air in straight lines, and then they disappear. This was before they even invented airplanes. What are those? Those are, of course, jinns as well. A question about ghosts. If you guys were at home and you saw your parents, after, let's say, they pass away, your grandparents come after they're passed away, what is that? We know that those are jinns, right? One of the interesting thing about that though is that Ad-Dajjal, which is the Antichrist, will come near the end of times. And Ad-Dajjal will work with the shayateen, the evil jinns, and one way he'll convince people to worship him and to say that he's God is he will bring somebody in front of them and says, if your parents told you to worship me, would you do it? And they say, yes, of course. So what will Ad-Dajjal do? Ad-Dajjal will get the shayateen to look like and pretend to be like their parents, come back to life, and then tell them you should worship Ad-Dajjal. And then people who don't know what jinns are, don't know what shayateen are, they'd be like, I saw my mom and dad, I'm going to do it, right? Another thing I forgot to mention earlier, shayateen and jinns in general, they live a lot longer than human beings do. So jinns know who your fathers are, your grandfathers, your great-grandfathers. So what they can do is they can imitate them, they can kind of look like them, and they can even imitate their voice a little bit. So when you hear it, you're like, I know my father is telling me to do this, or I know my grandfather is telling me to do this. What's really interesting about this, though, is that in Eastern cultures, China, Japan, Korea, Taiwan, Laos, Cambodia, Vietnam, in these cultures, they actually worship their ancestors. They worship their parents, their grandparents, and their great-grandparents. Why do they do that? Where did this come from? This is the shaitan and the jinns basically tricking these people to worship their parents and grandparents by coming back to them, pretending to be their parents, and then getting them to worship them rather than worshiping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So with that, inshallah, we're going to now switch over and talk about part 2. Unless there's other questions that people have about part 1.
Okay.
Yes, any questions? Yeah.
Can we have more questions?
Okay, good. Let's continue. Now, in part 2, this part is definitely for older kids, and it's important before we get into it that all of you think about this before you start talking, especially to younger kids, about as well. This is something that's also reality. So we know what? Jinns live longer than people. They can see us, we can't see them. They can move faster than people, they're stronger. Human beings are smarter. They eat, they have family, they live their own lives. So, what is Sehr? Sehr is translated loosely in English as black magic, What is black magic and what is magic in general? First and foremost, we have to start off with, there is no such thing as actual magic. Let's start off with that. There's no such thing as actual magic. The only thing that's close to magic is what the prophets did. The prophets did miracles. They did things that were actually quote unquote magical. Musa al-Islam turned a staff, a piece of wood, into an actual snake. Isa al-Islam cured the blind by touching their eyes. The Prophet ﷺ split the moon by doing this, and the moon split in half. They were able to bring Lazarus back from the dead. That is magic. That is otherworldly. That is impossible for anybody to do. That magic, if you want to call it that, doesn't exist in the world outside of the prophets and outside of what Allah allows maybe a Dajjal or other creatures here and there to do. Other than that, it doesn't exist in the world. So why do we call Sehr black magic? What is Sehr? What is Nazar, the evil eye? You see it in Egypt with the little eye thing. What are all these things? To understand that, you have to first understand the world of the jinns. That's why I started this talk by talking about the jinns and explain what jinns are. What is Sehr? Black magic is not magic in that somebody's able to control something or move something or anything like that. In fact, what you see on TV, those are just tricks. You guys know that, right? Anything you see on TV, anything a magician does by pulling a card or pulling a rabbit out of a hat or disappearing, these are all just tricks. These are all just them using technology and using things to just confuse people. I remember as a kid, I saw on TV a guy named David Blaine, and he made an elephant disappear. And I was like, wow, that's crazy. Can't believe I saw this elephant disappear. He was on stage, there's an audience of hundreds of people. He went in, he put over a curtain, and when he opened the curtain, the elephant was gone. Later, when they showed how David Blaine did that, do you know how David Blaine did that? All David Blaine did is all the people in the audience were actors. All they did was when he put the curtain, they just turned the camera from looking like this, turned it like that. So the elephant is still there. The stage moved this way. The elephant is no longer there. He opened the curtain, the elephant is gone, and everyone in the audience is like, oh! But they're all paid actors, right? So that type of magic is just tricks and whatnot. But there's a special kind of magic called black magic, Sehr, And we have to understand that because that is where there's evil in the world. We have to be able to understand where Sehr is. Sehr is also not magic because no magic exists. What's the only magic? It's not even called magic, it's called miracles, which is the prophets, what they did. So what is Sehr? Let's talk about what is Sehr and how can we explain Sehr. To understand Sehr, you have to go all the way back to a city, the city of Babylon. What is the city of Babylon, or Babel in Arabic? What is Babylon? What do you guys know about that city? Babylon is the very first city in humankind. Nuh alayhi salam had the first people. So Adam alayhi salam till Nuh alayhi salam were the first age of humanity. After Nuh alayhi salam and the flood, everybody was destroyed. After that, a new civilization started, and the first city was Babylon. In the city of Babylon, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent down two angels. And these two angels were sent down as a test for the people. And these two angels came to the city of Babylon to teach the people Sehr, black magic. And what did they teach them? These two angels, what did they teach them? They taught them what? How to communicate with the world of the jinn. So what is Sehr? What is this whole thing that we see on TV and whatnot? It is nothing less than how can you communicate with the world of the jinn. That is what these two angels, Harut and I think I forget the other name of the second angel, taught the people. They taught them how can you as a human being communicate with the world of the jinns. So how do you actually communicate with the world of the jinns? I'm not going to tell you because A, you're kids, and B, it's an evil process, so I'm not going to explain what it is. But if you watch TV, if you watch movies, and you see them drawing these stars on the ground and doing candles and doing this incantation, that's kind of what it is, right? Basically what it is that they taught people how you can do certain things, so that way the evil jinns, the shayateen, will actually get in communications with that person and talk to that person. And once the shayateen talk to that person, then they get into an agreement, like a contract, like an agreement with that person. What is this agreement that they're getting into? What the shayateen want is they want to humiliate you and I. They want you and I to go to the bad place. They want us to go to Jahannam. They want us to go to that bad area, right? So what they'll do is these angels taught the people how to communicate with the world of the jinn. And when you communicate with the world of the jinn, you will get into a contract with the jinn, and what the jinn will do stuff for you, right? But you have to do stuff for the jinn. Now, what can you do for the jinn? What does the jinn want? Do you think the jinn wants money? Do you think the jinn wants gold? Do you think jinn wants my Visa card? Do you think jinn wants like a double cheeseburger or a quarter pounder or a Ferrari? What does the jinn want? The shayateen don't want anything that we have. Rather, to understand what the shayateen want, you already actually know the answer. When Allah created Adam alayhi salam, what did he tell everybody to do? He told everything in the heaven and the earth to bow down to Adam. Who didn't bow down? Iblis, right? Why didn't he bow down? He said, I am better than he is. I'm made from fire. He's made from clay. Well, I'm not going to bow down to him. He's like inferior to me. He's lesser than I am. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala cast him out and gave him long life until today. So what's happening here? Allah is saying human beings are better than jinns. Human beings are up here. Jinns are inferior to human beings. Iblis doesn't like that. Iblis says, I'm better than they are. So what does he do? Okay. So what Iblis has done and what the shayateen do is they'll get in a contract with you and they'll do things that you ask them to do. But in order to do that, they want you to do what? Humans are here, jinns are here. What do they want? They want you to lower yourself down here, low as you can go, so they can be higher, right? So what does it mean to do Sehr? I'm not going to go into how to do Sehr and all these things, but what it means is that in order to do Sehr, you have to worship the jinn. In order to do Sehr, you have to humiliate yourself. In order to do Sehr, you have to get dirty. You have to become disgusting. You have to, any disgusting thing you can think of, the people who do Sehr do it. Why? Because you can't pay the jinn in money, cash, Visa, crypto, bonds, anything like that. You can't pay them Ferrari. The only thing that the shayateen want is to show Allah, these people are less than I am. Look at how disgusting this person is. Look at how filthy this person is. This is the one that you had Iblis bow down to. That you wanted him to bow down to this person. That is what Sehr is. Sehr is communicating with the shayateen, which there's books out there which I won't recommend reading. You can learn how to do it. After you've done that, then there's a contract you have. So what happens is the person who's doing Sehr, doing this black magic as it's called, what's he doing? He's doing whatever the shayateen wants him to do. Humiliate himself, sit in filth, not clean himself, do all the disgusting stuff. And when he does that, then he's like, hey, shayateen, I need you to go and slap this guy around. And then shayateen was like, okay, you, and then it'll come back, right? That is it. It actually is that stupid. It is actually that silly. It's actually that pathetic. So this is what's happening. In fact, why is it done? It's done as a job. People have jobs working as taxi drivers. People have jobs working as lawyers. In fact, you can get a job in which you are a magician dealing with these shayateen. In fact, all of us actually know this. How do witches work? Have you guys heard of witches, right? What do witches do? What are the nursery rhymes of witches? Anybody know one? To make a stew, you have to get what? A wing of a bat, an eye of a toad, a bone of a dog. You've heard this, right? To make the cauldron, the bubbly pot, you have to get all this random stuff. That's real as well. But imagine if you're the shaitan, right? And you're Iblis. And you tell this person, okay, I'll do what you want, but you need to do a potion. What's in the potion? Okay. The wing of a mosquito, the eye of a snake, the wing of a bat, the tail of a donkey, and this thing. So now you have this person, a full-grown adult, running around in the woods like an idiot, grabbing all this random stuff, coming home, putting into a pot, boiling it, mixing it together, and then the shaitan's like, good job, yes, now whatever you want, I'll do it. Question, who controls who in that situation? Does the person control the jinn in any way, or does the jinn control the person? When you do black magic, what are you doing? It's like, hello, jinns, yes, I would like to work for you. I want to sell my soul to you. I'm not going to worship Allah, I'm going to worship you instead. The shaitan is like, okay, let's do it. So the shaitan will now prove, are you serious? So they'll have you do just stupid, ridiculous things to humiliate yourself, to make fun of you. Now, when you go in the woods and you grab all this stuff and you put it into a pot and you recite the incantation that they just made up, do you think that gives the human power to the jinn? Or the jinn just making up stupid stuff to show how stupid you are? The shaitan is just making it up. This is not chemistry. If you took chemistry, if you add these chemicals together, it's going to produce this result. It's a chemical reaction. For shaitan and for people who do Sehr, all of it is made up. The jinns have just made up a bunch of stuff. They're having you collect it. And when you collect it, you do it. The shaitan's like, okay, I'll do whatever you want here and there. But they're doing it just to mock you and to bring you down. So what can the shaitan do? Why do people go to these individuals? They go for them for a few things. Number one, if you don't like somebody's business, you might go to these people do Sehr, be like, yo, I don't like that guy's business, shut down his business. So this guy will ask for money, you pay him, and then he'll be like, oh, shaitan, oh, jinn, oh, my power. Okay, go shut down that guy's business. So what can the shaitan do? Shaitans can whisper, jinns can whisper to people, right? So they'll just go in front of the business and be like, they'll do like Yelp reviews. Like, this guy's terrible, the food is bad, everything is bad, don't shop here. And if you do that long enough, people stop shopping in the guy's restaurant, the business shuts down. You can use the shaitan to then get people to get divorced from each other. It is said that you can get husband and wife to divorce each other. How do they do that? Do they have some magical power to get men and women to divorce each other? No. Rather, what do? They can whisper to people. So now if you're a husband and wife, right, and you're always fighting, what they'll do is they'll come in that situation, and when you get angry at your spouse, they'll whisper in your ear, remember in 1986, he didn't take out the trash, and then in 1875, 100 years ago, he didn't sweep the floor, and 30 years before, he didn't do this thing. So they'll remind the husband and wife of all the bad thing that the other person did, making their fights worse and worse and worse and worse until they separate. What can these shayateen do? They can also maybe even attack or hurt somebody. So you can hire this guy, he'll get the shayateen to go and attack that person. But couldn't you hire the gangs in the city to do that? Couldn't you hire an assassin to attack somebody and kill them? Yes, right? You could do the same thing. So basically you have an option. You can hire the assassin, you can hire the teenagers in the local gang, or you can go to the guy who does Sehr and then hire him and then he'll get the guy to do it. Jinns can also move things. We talked about how the jinns can get an object, turn into energy, and move it from one place to another, right? So sometimes when these people go to them, they're like, oh, I'm looking for something that I lost. So then when you're sitting in that person, he'll go into a trance and then he'll give you the item. How did he do that? Is he a miracle worker? Is he magic? No. He's just a little shaitan. Yo, bro, the guy lost his Game Boy. Can you find it? And the shaitan's like, yeah, I'll find it. And then he goes, travels the speed of light, finds it, puts in the guy's hands like, here's your Game Boy, homie, right? That's all it is. But again, how do you get in contact with them? You have to do kufr. You cannot believe in Allah and do sihr. And you have to humiliate yourself again and again and again. And what is it? It's a job. That's ultimately what it's all about, is to make money. The human being does not control the jinn at all. The jinn actually in many ways controls the human being. And this is one of the saddest realities that's out there. But because people don't know what's happening, that's where it comes. Say Surah Ikhlas, say Surah Nas, recite the last ayahs of Surah Baqarah or Ayatul Kursi, and it protects you from all of this, right? With that, we also have possessions. Can jinns possess people? Can jinns go inside of people and possess them? The answer is sometimes. Not all the time. Sometimes this can happen. The jinns can go inside of a person and take that person over, but this is very, very rare cases. Again, jinns and shayateen have better things to do than go into your house and make this sound and possess you. But it does happen. Why does that happen and how does that happen? Well, simply put, human beings are controlled by our brain. Our brain sends out what? To control your body. Does your brain have like little pulleys and levers that controls your hands and movement? What does it do? It has electrical impulses in your brain. So what happens is shayateen can come into your body and take that part over, especially if you're, I don't want to say evil, especially if you're not praying, if you're dirty, if you're away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's easier sometimes for the shayateen to do this. So this is a reality that does happen. So when somebody gets possessed, meaning a shaitan will go into the person and possess that person, it doesn't mean the person is possessed 24 hours a day. It means that person is more inclined to listen to the jinns, and in extreme cases, the shayateen might come out. How can you bring the shayateen out of a person if he's possessed somebody? You do what's called ruqyah on that person. Ruqyah is basically in English called exorcism. And ruqyah is what? What are you gonna do? How are you gonna get the jinn out of a person? Are you gonna like drop kick the person? Are you gonna like slap him silly? Like what are you gonna do, right? Well, the way to get the jinn out of a person is basically if you do exorcisms, you'll sit the person down and you'll recite Qur'an on that person. Again and again and again, you recite Qur'an out loud. You can also recite Qur'an over water, blow in the water, put the water in your mouth, and spit that water on that person. I've seen this happen a few times. When if you see the water spit on the person, the water will start to steam when it goes on the person. Very interesting to see that happen. In addition, when a jinn or a shayateen controls somebody, you might see their voice might start to change. Why is their voice changing? Because the shayateen is like kind of hijacking that person. Shayateen aren't that smart. You know they're not that smart because the way they talk, they don't speak in full sentences like we speak in. They speak in like, the east is the beast and the beast is the least. Right? You guys heard that on like scary stories and scary movies. Do shayateen ever speak in like full sentences? Like, good afternoon, Jolly-o. Today I have taken over this person's body and I shall not leave until I get 5 sterlings of silver. Is that how shayateen talk? No. They're like, evil is the way. That they talk in these very stupid, kind of childish ways. And if you really think about it, it is very childish the way they speak, because they're not that smart. They just don't know how to talk the same way. That's why any horror movie you watch, any exorcism you experience, they won't talk in a normal way. They don't know how to talk in sentences. They talk like children, but like children who are talking like that, right? That's how they speak. We know that shayateen can also take over people, because there's been cases in which somebody is possessed by a shaitan and then they speak a different language that they never learned before. So in America, there's this case called Emily Rose. Anybody know who Emily Rose is? Emily Rose they made a movie about this as well. Today, and actually I heard this on YouTube, they did recordings of her in the 1960s. A little girl, maybe 11, 12 years old, was possessed by a shaitan, right? By a demon or something like that. In the recording, she's speaking fluent Latin. Latin, for those of you who don't know, is an ancient language that's dead from Rome. Why? Because jinns lived for a long time. That jinn knew Latin. Now he's speaking Latin in front of this person, right? Again, jinns don't possess people that often. There's something wrong happening mentally with that person or something going on. And then you can do ruqyah or you can blow on that person, and then that will eventually get the jinns out. When you do exorcisms on a person who's possessed and you recite Qur'an on them and whatnot, that's actually torturing the shaitan. So you can actually kill the jinns by doing ruqyah, by blowing water on them or doing Qur'an on them, and then it'll actually torture them and they can actually die in that situation until they leave the body or things like that, right? So that's the other element of exorcism. The last thing I'll talk about is basically, and the last thing I'll talk about, and I'll end with this one, is that when you're doing Sehr, another way to do Sehr, because the Prophet ﷺ actually had Sehr done on him as well. So during the time of the Prophet ﷺ, there's an incident in which the Prophet ﷺ had Sehr done on him as well. I won't talk about the incident, it was very mild for him, but what had happened is somebody who does Sehr, again, a person who hired the jinn in the city of Medina, he basically got the Prophet ﷺ's hair in a comb, he put that inside of a date palm, and then he used that to basically make the Prophet ﷺ a little bit sick. Not much, just a little bit sick, right? So this is also exists as well, where you can get people's hairs or things like that, do certain things, and make the person sick or things like that. Again, are these people doing anything magical? No. All they're doing is they're communicating with the world of the jinn. They're selling themselves to these jinns. The jinn are doing whatever it is that jinns can do. Now that all of us know this happens, we can now protect ourselves, not be afraid of these type of things, not hear crazy stories of, oh no, this person gonna do a hasad on me, as if they have like, laser eyes like X-Men, right? They can like turn it on and shoot you with lasers. It simply means they have envy. Envy attracts jinns. Anger attracts jinns. These type of things attract them, and that's how a person's impacted by it. And if you recite, believe in Allah and have this will protect you from these type of realities that are happening. With that, I'm gonna pause there and see, are there any other questions? And then for the oldest kids, in the future, we'll do a part 3 in exactly how to do exorcism and stuff. Yes, last